What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good afternoon. Gonna go ahead and get in our recap for today. I'm actually gonna start on the weekly and show the levels that we were working with here this morning, right? So I'm gonna take this weekly wick. This is what our attention was on. I'm gonna pull up the kind of the anatomy of that wick here. So the consequent encroachment and then all of the quarter levels as well. Like that. So we'll leave these here for now, just so we can see. Right, I also want to show you guys. We've also been referencing, oh, I had taken it off, April 5th's 4-hour fair value gap. So let me bring that back up for us here. Right, so here are our higher time frame levels that we were utilizing here today. Now as I drop down to an hourly, you'll see, right, that we, here I'll look on a 15-minute. On the 15-minute, we close above this 4-hour fair value gap here, creating an inversion level, right? So once we close above it, we were waiting to see if this would become an inversion heading into today. And you see that, right? We refuse to leave underneath it. So we close above, classify as an inversion level, create sell side. We clear that sell side. And obviously you see now we've just been trending higher the rest of New York into this level here, which is our weekly buy side pool. As we continue to work down here on the lower time frames now, we spoke about how our objective, right, and bias was basically higher prices, seeing as how we closed above the 4-hour fair value gap. On a 1 minute now, as we got here during the 9:30 opening, we had seen price create 1, 2, 3, 4 swing lows here, right, on the way up heading into 9:30. And we spoke about a potential 9:30 Judas swing. So 9:30 is notorious for creating that Judas swing to pick up stops before creating the true move. So when we see this explosive down close candle right at 9:30, it's not surprising, right? We understand it's just coming to clear out sell side here, here, and ultimately here. This is the lowest it gets to. So we run out the short-term low. Notice we still hold, right, the low of the 4-hour inversion. So that was nice to see. And from there, we're really watching this now bearish fair value gap. So I pull this back up and notice how, right, we respect it here once. When we push up and through it, once we close above like this, especially because we close above this candle now, right, we're creating a breaker block. We've created an inversion, and now we've created a 1 minute bullish fair value gap. We were trusting this would hold us and send us higher. Once we saw price wick into this level, right, respect it, hold, and really hold this level here. We entered on this. Stop was underneath this candle's consequent encroachment. And then we were able to stack a position once we hit this down close candle again. Because at this time we understand, right, we've already done the work we need to. We've cleared out short-term low. We have respected the discount. So we have no need to revisit this candle's low. Our buy side target was obviously, right, these relative equal highs here. So the high of the morning, notice how we come up to it once to, right, create 2 more relative equal highs. So this is just showing that we're in engineering liquidity right at this point. And that's why our first buy side objective was this level here. So that gets hit nicely, right? We get out of our position. And from here, we really just were continuing to expect higher prices. We spoke about how if we're going to close back above consequent encroachment of the 4-hour fair value gap now, right here, we would expect higher prices. And not only do we close above it, but if I drag it out, notice how we close above it while creating that fair value gap. So we followed this fair value gap. We saw how now, right, price, I mean, look at that delivery, right? Perfect delivery into its low. Candle bodies not even getting into that fair value gap. Candle bodies tell the story. And we continue to attack buy side here. So now we continue to respect discounts as you see on the way up. And here now is where we shared that second entry. So if I drag out the 4-hour, right, I'm continuing to use this higher time frame understanding and narrative. We leave the 4-hour fair value gap with a volume imbalance. So that right there was very telling that we would want to continue to run. Right, if we're going to leave a premium in the form of this 4-hour fair value gap, creating a new discount along the way with still higher targets, right? We were still looking for higher objectives. And those objectives, right, another thing that I will show you was the standard deviations that we were using. So I don't speak about it too often, but today was a good example, and we saw it come out, right? Really live play out how we were expecting. We're taking the highest swing here down to this low, right? So the swing that clears this liquidity prior to the run higher. So this high down to this low, and now we projected those, right, standard deviations. So these were our targets heading forward. And one thing that we noticed, right, that was very telling, the fourth standard deviation lines up perfectly, I mean absolute perfectly, right? So perfect you can't even see it here. Let me add it. Perfectly with that weekly buy side target. So this was that weekly buy side. And this is why we spoke about, especially if we're going to close above the 2.5 standard deviation mark here. So let me bring this level up. If we close above 2.5 standard deviations, we can expect, right, higher prices, especially into that fourth. So once we see this, especially once twice tap it and now push up and through aggressively, it's almost guaranteed that we're going to run into that level. And I mean, look how beautiful that delivery was, right? So we were able to forecast this, I mean, all the way back here even. Let me hop back down to the 1 minute to share our actual entry here. So this actual entry was a consequent encroachment entry of the fair value gap. So we enter right there, stop underneath, right, this swing point. And for here, like we said, our target was just those 2 standard deviations. So we ended up getting out here. Obviously, we end up running higher into 2.5, 3, and ultimately 4. But for the morning, right, this was a nice setup as well. And we like to see this because we were engineering, right, 3 drives as we're heading into this discount. So we have this discount fair value gap that we're already expecting price to offer us support at. And you see, right, we create the 3 drives pattern into it. 1, 2, 3. And this played out really as we expected, right? So we got back above this fair value gap. We then used the volume bounce as support, and we got up and through the buy side. So real clean delivery today. Nice to see that. Engineering liquidity as we're heading lower. As we spoke about, right? Who is going to be punished here? People that are trying to short the top, right? We're leaving equal highs in place. We're leaving swing highs in place. And we keep attacking lows. So eventually, these highs got to go. We blast up and through that real beautifully. And yeah, we just continue that upwards expansion. So as we spoke about, we're not in the market of calling tops. Any run lower to clear out our short-term low should be seen as simply a run on stops before another run higher. Notice how we tap that 2.5 standard deviation mark beautifully once, give a retracement, right? Tap it again, slight retracement, and finally blast up and through it. Our second trade came here during lunch, actually. So this is the lunch hour. And the narrative was, right, we understand if we're going to close above 2.5 standard deviations, we expect price to continue higher. So the third and then ultimately the fourth here. When I see that we create, right, first a bullish fair value gap perfectly aligned with it here. That's nice to see. We come back through it, yes, but notice, as I was saying, any run lower should simply be seen as a run on stops, right, a fake move. We run through it, but eventually pass back up and through it one more time. And when we pass back up and through this original bullish fair value gap, notice how we create another one here. So at this point, I was very confident that this new fair value gap would hold, and that's where the second entry you see me take and share this afternoon came from. So as we trade back into that fair value gap, I'm not even expecting price to return underneath the 2.5 standard deviation mark, tight stop loss, and simply just targeting that buy side here. So another quick scalp, right? In the grand scheme of things, we could hold all the way to our final 4th deviation target like we had here, but no need really for me. Right, that would have been a nice trade and it makes sense, but I'm fine taking the quick ones that we do. Ultimately, we hit that buy side, tap it here, create equal highs first, give a slight retracement into the 3 standard deviation mark, and push up and through, clearing buy side, before finally releasing and right, attacking that weekly buy side objective. So that's that weekly objective here. Notice how we wick right into it, reject, play around it, right, even creating now relative equal highs. So as we continue to preach, right, anyone that was trying to catch tops all day continued to get burned, right? They see these as kind of relative equal highs. They're trying to short this. We come down, find support, and then attack that buy side once again. Power hour just gave us some consolidation because we already had moved so much throughout the day, right? Of course. So we're already moving. Power hour, we just get just a slight consolidation, and now we return really in between, right? If I was going to pull up the midpoint of the third and fourth standard deviation, notice we're kind of sitting right around that level. Price is gravitating for it now, actually. But yeah, pretty eventful morning, right? Nice opportunities for us to get long this morning, so that was nice to see. And it was pretty educational, right? Got to share a lot of gems that we haven't really talked about before, considering how I use the standard deviations, right? This was real beautiful to see. This right, fourth standard deviation get absolute nailed. So if we go back and watching that live stream that we posted, right, you'll see us talking about how really even before we got to the second and the third, that if we can get above the 2.5, we would expect the fourth. And the fact that the fourth deviation of this swing here from high to low lined up perfectly with a weekly buy side pull, right? That is not random at all. Nothing in this market is random. So seeing these levels perfectly aligned, it's basically a flashing red target for price. And you see price, right, rip right up into that. And ultimately we did get a little higher, but you see, right, that was really the objective for the day. So just clean buy side delivery. This is right what that buy program looks like. And that's why we're confident any long opportunity we see, we capitalize on. Once you understand what you're looking for, it's nice to have days like this, right? Finally some clean delivery. So for me going forward, what I'll want to see is whether or not we want to continue to, right, for one, if we put in a fair value gap here, see if we can hold that. But if we don't close above this weekly buy side pull and we start to now reverse, right now we may actually start to see a potential run lower. If anything, at least into equilibrium of this range here. So for me going forward, the thing that I would really be kind of watching would be this down close candle here and this 1 hour fair value gap paired with the 15, right? That's paired with the 15 as well. If I see us get and close underneath this 1 hour fair value gap, right, I'll look for this down close candle. If we start playing around here and closing underneath, then I think we return into just equilibrium here of this range. But until then, really not too much to base off of, right? Our original bias and target was that weekly buy side objective. So when something like that happens and our objective gets hit, we really just have to wait, let price action play out, and get a better understanding before we go back in looking for our next objectives. Hope you guys found that one helpful. Remember, we will be on tomorrow morning at same time, 9:30 Eastern for Equities Open. So until then, have a good night, everybody, and we will talk in the morning. See you guys.